Kamaru Usman is making headlines once again. The Nigerian nightmare is not holding back and is making it clear that he still sees himself as the biggest name in the welterweight division. Usman has called out the winner of Islam versus JDM, pushing hard for another shot at the title. Despite the division being absolutely stacked right now with the likes of Ian Gary, Shavkat Rakhmonov and Sean Brady, Usman isn't worried one bit. When Henry Cejudo pointed out the competition, Usman brushed it off and said he knows the UFC understands that he's still the biggest draw. Coming off a big win, his confidence is sky high, and he believes a title shot is inevitable. Usman explained that if Islam manages to beat JDM, that matchup between him and Islam would be a true super fight. Even if Usman might be slightly past his prime, he feels that the clash of two former pound-for-pound kings would still deliver massive hype. On the flip side, if JDM shocks the world and defeats Islam in his prime, then a showdown between JDM and Usman would be nothing short of insane. Usman believes it would be the perfect way to solidify JDM as the next generation champion by testing him against the former pound-for-pound #1. The welterweight division is as hot as ever, with so many moving pieces at the top. Carlos Prates is lined up to face Leon Edwards. Meanwhile, Shavkat Rakhmonov is set to clash with Bilal Muhammad, as revealed by UFC commentator John Anik, who is also a close friend of Bilal. Everywhere you look, there are massive fights being set up, and the landscape of the 170-pound division is shifting fast. Usman, however, remains unfazed by the chaos. He knows how quickly this weight class can move and stressed that if he doesn't land the next title fight, he will need to stay active to avoid being left behind. He stated clearly that this division is always moving, and fighters who wait too long end up forgotten. For Usman, the key is to make the biggest fights possible, the ones that fans want to see most. In his words, if JDM defends that title and beats Islam, who better to truly cement him as the new generation champion than me? Usman believes that fight would carry huge weight, blending the excitement of a new rising star with the legacy of a former dominant king. And if Islam comes out victorious, then fans would witness a historic pound-for-pound battle, one that would pit two of the most dominant fighters of recent years against each other. For Usman, the mission is clear. He wants the spotlight, he wants the biggest stage, and above all, he wants to remind everyone that he is still here. Whether it's against JDM or Islam, Usman is ready to step back into the cage for a legacy fight. Before moving to the next news, we have one quick request for you. We are constantly working on improving our content to earn your love and support. That is why we truly appreciate it if you could take just a moment to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update here on MMA Pulse News. Moving on to another news, Eugene Bareman, the mastermind behind preparing Alex Volkanovski for his fights against Islam, has given some major insights that have the MMA world buzzing. Speaking with Submission Radio, the City Kickboxing head coach touched on Israel Adesanya's future, the possibility of Dan Hooker facing Arman, and of course the highly anticipated showdown between JDM and Islam. Bareman covered a lot of ground, and his comments have stirred up plenty of discussion across the fight community. Starting with Israel Adesanya, Bareman revealed that Izzy only has a couple of fights left before walking away from the sport. He made it clear that these last outings are not about chasing belts or rankings anymore. Instead, they are going to be fun fights, entertaining clashes against names like Paulo Costa or even Sean Strickland. These matchups would serve as exciting swan songs for one of the UFC's biggest stars. Bareman emphasized that the focus now is enjoyment and legacy, not necessarily long reigns or title defenses. From there, the conversation shifted to Dan Hooker. Bareman said nothing is official yet, but he believes Hooker could be lined up to face Arman in a fight that would have massive stakes. He insisted that Hooker has every single tool needed to beat Arman, and if he pulls it off, he could find himself in line for a title shot. That would be a huge turnaround for Hooker, who has been in wars throughout his career and is now looking for one more big run at lightweight. As for Arman, he's been stuck in what Bareman described as lightweight limbo, hovering around contention, but struggling to get that defining moment. A fight between the two would be explosive, and Bareman is backing his fighter to come out on top. Then came the boldest part of the interview, JDM versus Islam. Bareman is firmly backing JDM to pull off the upset. He pointed out that there is a blueprint for beating Islam, and his team has already exposed parts of it when Volkanovski pushed Islam to the limit. Bareman reminded everyone that Islam has been knocked out before, and in his words, Volk's beaten him already, a statement that is guaranteed to stir debate among fans. According to Bareman, the key lies in forcing Islam into uncomfortable exchanges. Islam excels at throwing a single clean shot, picking opponents off with precision, and then controlling the fight with his grappling. But his vulnerabilities appear when he has to fight to win a round, when he's forced to put 2 or 3 punches together under pressure. Bareman explained explained that this is where the holes start to show in Islam's game. If you can push him into extended exchanges, where combinations are necessary, then opportunities open up. That's exactly where he believes JDM can succeed. JDM's pressure, boxing combinations and toughness can put Islam in positions he doesn't like. Behrman acknowledged that Islam and his team are extremely smart, but he still sees those vulnerabilities as very real. To him, this fight is not just intriguing, it's a battle that could expose Islam's weaknesses like never before. Behrman's words were confident and calculated, showing clear belief in his fighters. From Adesanya's final run, to Hooker's potential breakthrough, to JDM's chance to dethrone Islam, he's setting the stage for some truly massive moments in the sport. Moving on to another news, Ilia just can't seem to stay out of the headlines, and this time the Georgian champion has put the UFC in a very uncomfortable position. ESPN journalist Papa Gospi, a respected Spanish media figure with close ties to Ilia, best known for that hilariously awkward interview with Max Holloway, has dropped a bombshell update on the tension building between Ilia and the UFC. Behind the scenes, things are reportedly getting extremely tense, and Dana White himself is not happy. Over the past several weeks, Ilia has been showing signs of deep frustration. He has openly admitted that he is losing the fire and passion that drove him to the top of the sport. Much of that frustration is tied to his dream matchups not coming together. First, the highly discussed fight with Islam didn't materialize. Now, the much-hyped fight with Paddy Pimblett has been dragging on with no clear direction or commitment. These missed opportunities have left Ilia restless, and his comments have only added fuel to the fire. Just a few weeks ago, Ilia made headlines when he told the Nelk boys that he was so determined to avoid fighting Arman that he would rather vacate the lightweight title than face him inside the cage. Those words immediately triggered a strong reaction inside the UFC. According to Gospi, Dana White and the matchmakers were furious. Dana especially hates when fighters bounce between divisions or threaten to walk away, but in this case it's different. Dana is reportedly so worried about Ilia burning out or stepping away entirely that he's considering something very unusual. Behind closed doors, the UFC has started actively discussing the possibility of Ilia moving up to welterweight. The plan being floated is for Ilia to face the winner of Islam versus JDM. That would be a massive fight, but it also shows how desperate the UFC is to keep Ilia motivated and active. Dana does not like making these kinds of exceptions. Historically, he's been firm about fighters defending their belts and staying in their divisions, but Ilia's star power is undeniable, and the risk of losing him entirely seems to be forcing Dana's hand. Right now, Ilia still holds the belt, but his patience is wearing thin. Fans have seen his tone shift in interviews. He's openly admitted that his love for fighting is slipping away. That's the kind of language that terrifies a promoter, especially when the fighter in question is a reigning champion with crossover appeal. Dana has built a reputation on keeping the UFC strong and not bending too much for individual stars, but in Ilia's case, it looks like the UFC is prepared to bend. Papa Gospi summed it up clearly, saying, Ilia's talk about retiring triggered a very strong reaction inside the UFC. Dana White and the matchmakers didn't like it at all. Dana in particular hates when fighters talk about moving divisions or threatening to step away, but in this case, he's genuinely worried Ilia might burn out. That's why they've started discussing a potential move to welterweight. The idea is simple: Ilia could fight the winner of Islam versus JDM. Dana doesn't like making these exceptions, but with Ilia's star power and the risk of losing him completely, he's willing to bend. This situation has put everyone on edge. Dana is furious, the matchmakers are scrambling to find solutions, and Ilia himself seems caught between frustration and ambition. His star is shining bright, but his patience is running out. If the UFC can't lock down the fights he wants, the risk of him walking away becomes very real. For now, all eyes remain on what happens next, but one thing is clear: Ilia has forced Dana White into a corner, and the UFC is scrambling to keep one of its most valuable champions from slipping away. Moving on to another news, Daniel Cormier recently confronted JDM directly over a meme that stirred up a storm in the MMA world. Just a few days ago, JDM reposted a viral image that joked about having a button to mute DC during UFC commentary. By doing so, he sided with many of DC's critics, and there are plenty of them. The move quickly caught fire online, and it didn't take long for DC to respond. On his YouTube channel, Cormier broke it all down in detail, sharing exactly what went down behind the scenes. According to DC, he decided not to let the situation fester. Instead, he sent JDM a direct message, confronting him about the post. He wrote, "Jack, that's wrong, bro. Why Jack? Why? DC explained that the message wasn't meant to escalate things, but rather to address the issue head-on. To his surprise, JDM immediately replied with an apology. He admitted he was wrong and sent back, "My bad, DC. Wrong take." DC said he appreciated the quick response and willingness to clear the air. For him, it showed that JDM didn't really mean any harm, and simply made a poor decision in the moment. This little exchange, however, comes at a very intense time in JDM's career. He's only a couple of months away from stepping into the octagon for the biggest fight of his life. He will be facing Islam, the number 2 pound-for-pound fighter in the world, in a battle that could reshape not just one, but 2 divisions. For JDM, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. If he defeats Islam, he will not only cement himself as the king of the welterweight division, but also open the door to a wave of blockbuster matchups. Fighters like Kamaru Usman, Sean Brady, and Shavkat Rakhmonov are all waiting in line, hungry for their shot at the belt. But if Islam wins, the situation becomes even more complex. Islam could decide to move back down to lightweight to take on Ilia, creating chaos across 2 divisions. The welterweight strap would be left in limbo, and matchmakers would be scrambling to figure out who deserves the next opportunity. This is why so many analysts and fans are calling this upcoming clash one of the most important fights in recent UFC history. It doesn't just crown a champion, it sets the course for the future of 2 stacked weight classes. The pressure surrounding this fight is immense. For JDM, this is the chance to prove that his well-rounded skills and size can overpower Islam's wrestling and grappling dominance. For Islam, it's a chance to solidify his legacy by capturing a second belt and pushing his status even higher on the pound-for-pound list. Either way, the outcome will ripple through the sport, impacting countless fighters and matchups to come. While the situation between DC and JDM may have started as a light-hearted meme, it quickly turned into a moment of tension that was handled with honesty and respect. And now, all focus shifts back to the octagon, where the stakes could not be higher. JDM versus Islam is more than just a fight, it's a defining moment for the UFC and the future of 2 divisions. Moving on to another news, Tom Aspinall confronted Ciryl Gane's coach Fernand Lopez right after the UFC 321 press conference. The two have been trading words for over a year, with Aspinall repeatedly accusing Gane of avoiding him. Lopez, on the other hand, has always denied those claims, calling Tom's comments nothing more than whining and even labeling them annoying. But this time, the two finally came face to face. Tom posted footage of the interaction on his socials, showing how the tension quickly shifted into a real conversation that ended with a handshake. From Lopez's side, he insisted that the UFC never once mentioned Aspinall's name before the Manchester card. He swore that Dana White never brought Tom up in any official discussions, claiming that from their perspective Gane's name had been mentioned but never Tom's. Aspinall responded calmly, making it clear he wasn't fabricating anything. He explained that from his perspective he was offered the fight before Manchester, and then again during Manchester. For him, that was the truth, and he never wanted to make Gane or his team look bad. Lopez agreed that perhaps both sides were simply seeing things from different angles, acknowledging that Tom might have genuinely received different information. The two went back and forth respectfully, with Aspinall clarifying he wasn't trying to create unnecessary drama. He emphasized he would never lie just for headlines, and only ever wanted to share his truth. Lopez accepted that explanation, admitting it made sense, and by the end the conversation turned positive. Both men agreed that at the end of the day, they're here to fight, and when that moment comes, it's going to be big. Aspinall even praised Lopez, calling him a good guy and saying the media may have blown things out of proportion. The handshake closed the chapter, showing mutual respect despite all the heated talk. Moving on to another news. The UFC lightweight division has always been one of the most dramatic, chaotic, and exciting landscapes in combat sports. And now a fresh twist has reignited talk of one of the most heated rivalries in MMA history. Brazilian fighter Mauricio Rafi has made headlines after extending a very unusual and fascinating invitation. He wants Conor to join his corner for a future title fight against Islam, a move that instantly sparked renewed hopes of seeing some form of Conor vs Khabib Part 2. While it may not be the direct rematch fans once dreamed of, it could still offer Conor a unique chance at revenge against the team that defined one of the lowest points of his career. The backstory runs deep. Conor and Khabib's feud was one of the most bitter rivalries the sport has ever seen. It exploded onto the global stage in October 2018 at UFC 229, when Khabib submitted Conor in the 4th round of their highly anticipated fight. That night didn't just end with a tap. It escalated into a full-scale post-fight brawl that spilled into the crowd, forcing the Nevada State Athletic Commission to hand down suspensions to both fighters. The chaos only added fuel to a rivalry that had already captured worldwide attention. Khabib eventually eventually retired in 2020 with an UN-defeated record, leaving fans without the closure they so desperately wanted. Since then, Islam has stepped into the role of the division's dominant force. Trained under the same Dagestani system and carrying forward the legacy of Khabib's team, Islam has become the new face of Dagestan dominance at lightweight. For Conor, who was left frustrated and humiliated in that first clash, this presents a backdoor route to settle old scores. By cornering Rafi in a fight against Islam, he could indirectly relive that rivalry, taking part in another war against the men who continue to carry the same torch Khabib left behind. The idea might sound unconventional, but in a sport fueled by drama, history, and UN-finished business, it makes perfect sense. Conor standing in Rafi's corner against Islam would be more than just another fight. It would be symbolic, a direct challenge to the Dagestani Empire, and a chance for Conor to reclaim some pride. Whether the UFC ever allows it to happen remains to be seen, but the proposal itself has already done its job. It has stirred excitement, sparked debate, and reminded everyone why the lightweight division is still the most electrifying in all of MMA. That's it from MMA Pulse News. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for daily MMA news. That's it from MMA Pulse News. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for daily MMA news.